how do you know Trent? You guys like from high school or?
Yeah, we were like kind of like, he was on the rival high school, and we played summer ball and travel ball and did all that stuff. And, you know, we were always in the tournaments and doing all those things. And I got drafted out of high school and he went the college route. And then him and I trained together for about 4 years back in Charlotte. And then once I got married, I moved away from Charlotte, and my wife and I have been all over the place. But yeah, Trent's just like a childhood friend, and, you know, we're both kind of in similar situations right now. So, but yeah, he's a good dude.
Yeah. Let's run it back a minute to, you mentioned high school, and I know in high school you had some pretty nasty stats, your K per 9 and you know, ERA and stuff. What was it like being in high school and throwing up numbers like that?
It was weird. You know, it was such a crazy time, because at that time, at that moment in my life, you know, I think a lot of high school kids, you think you got everything figured out. You know, there's this talk of the draft, and you're starting to get all these pro scouts, you know, 20, 30 scouts coming to your games or radar guns, and, you know, all the teams and players that you're playing against in your little conference, wherever that is. You know, everyone, when there's a guy that's about to get drafted, it's just kind of like you know, you kind of get put up on a little bit of a pedestal for a little bit. And, you know, it's cool because I was never really that type of guy. You know, I was always fighting my way to get on, you know, the good teams. And, you know, if I got on the good team, I was batting, you know, towards the bottom of the lineup or wasn't playing a lot. You know, never really was in the all-star games and stuff like that. So it wasn't really till my junior year that when my physical ability started to kind of, you know, mature, and, you know, I started kind of growing to my body, is when I started to find that, you know, I have another, you know, I could have definitely a skill in this sport that I wasn't really, you know, aware of. But, you know, it's cool going up there throwing hard. I mean, you know, you're not really worried about too much. You're just going out there having fun. I mean, that's ultimately what I think we're all trying to get to at the highest level, just going out there and having fun.
Yeah, because you see so many times when pressure gets too much for especially like kids in high school when they're 15, 16, 17, like the pressure gets so big on them that it takes a bit of the fun away from the game, and it starts to be something they don't maybe enjoy as much as they used to.
Yeah, that happened a little bit for me. I the first half of my high school season, I was really into it. I wasn't thinking about the pressure. And then once you start getting, you know, you're doing well, and they start talking about dollars amount and, you know, potentially millions of dollars as a 18, 19-year-old kid, you know, that's something that's really hard to kind of block out. You know, my second half was a little bit up and down, but, you know, it worked out for me. But yeah, that was just a crazy time in my life.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, I actually didn't realize this until I started speaking to more baseball players, but it's pretty common, I think, from my experience, for baseball players to go straight from high school to the major leagues. Maybe not, it's more common than I thought it is. What was kind of your thought process behind all that? I know you had committed to University of Arkansas, which isn't a no-name school by any means. So it's,
right.
It's a pretty hefty school down there in the South when it comes to baseball. How hard of a decision was it to leave, you know, your commitment and then go to the pros right away?
Yeah, it was a tough decision. It wasn't as tough as I thought it was going to be. You know, I definitely was very intrigued into Arkansas. I actually wanted to get into become a veterinarian if I wasn't going to be playing baseball. And Arkansas had one of the best, you know, vet schools. Teams are really good about paying for your college education after it's all said and done. So that was kind of my fallback. You know, if I can't go in there and excel as a major league player, then, you know, I'll go back. I'll have my money that I got drafted with and go back to school as a 25, 26-year-old adult and just start a little bit later in life. So those two aspects were kind of my big deciding points.
Yeah. Did you have any expectations when the draft rolled around that you would be picked, you know, you got picked in the fourth round, but do you have any expectations it might be higher or lower, or was it just such a roll to die?
Yeah, it was. So that was actually my 2012 was the first year that they started implementing slot bonus money.
Okay.
Before that, it was more of a free market where teams could give a guy in the 15th round $3 million and, he could go sign. But my year was a kind of an experimental year in terms of slot bonus. These teams now, the team with the first overall pick, they get $11 million, and it goes down to about $6 million for the best team. And, you're really not supposed to pay over the slot value that you got. And so I was always kind of set that I was going to go kind of later, first round, potentially supplemental, maybe second round. My velocity kind of fell off a little bit towards my high school year. And then I
was that just because of fatigue, sorry, or were there other factors?
I think a little bit was pressure. I think a little bit was, pressure, potentially fatigue. I don't think that was the main component of it. I remember my mental state from the beginning of that season towards the end. I started to get kind of caught up in the draft a little bit, worried about, where I was going to go. I think I was, putting pressure on myself to do too much. Story of my life as a player is to do too much. But that's kind of where it happened. And then, it was just an very interesting time.
Yeah, and like I mentioned before a bit, when you're 16, 17 years old playing high school ball, it's got to be really overwhelming to know there's MLB scouts watching you. I mean, there's with the opportunity to play with people that you watch on TV growing up, like probably some of your idols as well, and then to kind of put the two together and say like, okay, I have a chance here to make that leap. That has to just be an enormous amount of pressure for some young kids. Yeah,
it was. The cool thing about it is actually, when you get drafted as a high school kid, it's very hard to go directly to the major leagues. I mean, even college guys in the game today, they, you'll see some guys who are the best college guys. They'll even spend kind of a year in the minor leagues just getting acquainted to everything. And so, I knew I wasn't going to go straight to the major leagues. I knew as a high school kid, especially being drafted by Boston, they tend to take their high school players a little bit slow. More, they like to they don't want to rush you. They want to make sure you got everything. And I mean, I hit about every single stop you could think of in terms of, going to the Dominican, going to Instructs 4 times, going to every single level, failing at every level, succeeding at most levels, the trade. I mean, it just was a packed full 6 years of honestly a lot of hardship, and then it started getting a little bit better.
Mm-hmm. And when you first arrived at the Red Sox organization, did you spend spring training with like the full club that first summer, or were you kind of I guess within the Gulf Coast League then, right?
Yeah, that's the Gulf Coast League. I actually I got signed. It's kind of a cool process, or not cool, but it's different. You get signed. As soon as I signed, I had 5 days. I went up to Boston. I got my physical. I checked out. We signed the contract. And then I was on a flight down to Fort Myers, Florida, and I just was about as naive and as ignorant as I could be at that point in my life, not really knowing what to expect. And then, you meet all these other drafted guys, and, when you get a bunch of young guys who get a lot of money, there's lots of egos, lots of, guys with their chests out and stuff. And so you're trying to battle, you're trying to figure out the baseball world. You're trying to figure out, teammates' characters and what not to do, what to do. You're trying to listen to the team and adjust to a new schedule. It's just a roller coaster of things that are going on. And you can kind of get thrown into the fire, and that's kind of how the minor leagues are. You get thrown into the fire, and, the guys that can, do it have success on a consistent level are the guys that continue to move up, and the ones that, let the little things get to them or have off the field issues or whatever, those are the guys that you don't really see playing anymore.
Yeah. It's obviously like a huge jump to go from the high school to the minor leagues instead of going to high school, college, and then the minor league after that. When you went straight from high school to the minor leagues, obviously, I mean, your stats take a bit of a dip because just the level of competition is that much higher. How Like, how hard was that for you to kind of wrap your head around that you weren't able to achieve the same numbers that you were once achieving in high school as a senior?
Honestly, it was something that, unfortunately, I hate to say it like this, I was used to it. I never really had a lot of success as a young kid. I was very inconsistent with my success, and that was partly due to my the mental aspect of the game that I've really started to hone in now in my career. But I mean, I was my senior year, obviously I had a really good year. My junior year in high school, I had a really good year. My sophomore year, I was on the junior varsity team in high school. I never was really I never really had the stats. I always had the athletic ability. I always could throw hard. I always had the potential. And the potential was the thing that kind of kept me playing, kept me hungry, because I knew I could have those stats if I just learned how to be more consistent. And so honestly, when I got into pro ball, I had about a 3-mile-an-hour dip in my velocity. I was throwing 95, 96 in high school, and for about probably 3 years, I would say. And pro ball, I was like 90, 93, maybe hitting 94. My curveball was not nearly the same pitch it was. My changeup was okay. My fastball, I always had a very good fastball, which that kind of allowed me to, have the mid-4 ERA that I would usually have in a minor league season, occasionally a 5. But, that was not really a shock for me. Like I said, I hate to say it like that, but I was kind of used to the up and down. So, yeah.
Yeah, you mentioned that the mental aspect of it, you're starting to hone in on more. What specifically are some of the things you're doing? Is it more like self-study things? Are you having like other people, maybe it's part of the Angels organization, if they have sports psychologists that are kind of giving you some tips? What does that kind of whole process look like?
Oh, geez. This whole mental side of the game is it's unbelievable, man. Like, there's really so much to this side that, as a younger kid, I wish I would have been exposed to more. I think it would have really elevated my game earlier on in my career. You hear professional guys talk about the mental side, and when you're a young kid, you don't really understand that concept. You just kind of think that, let me just keep doing my squats, let me just keep running, let me just keep playing catch and working on all the physical aspects. And then, you hope that eventually it's just going to go away. And as I noticed, the older I got, and the less that I trained on the mental side, the more anxious I got, the harder time I had dealing with failure. I would have games where, I had such a bad outing that it's like I didn't even want to come to the field the next day. I was treating baseball like it was life or death. And, the Red Sox were actually really good with getting the minor league players onto the mental side. They, we had journals, we had guys coming out and, mental skills coaches as they call them. And that was something that I kind of, I was almost doing it just because they offered it. I wasn't doing it with purpose. And then once I started kind of realize, hey, listen, I'm not going to be playing this game much longer unless I learn how to deal with the mental side of this game. Once I started to jump into AAA, I was just having a really hard time. I was doing great in AA, and I got called up, and I just got shell-shocked. I just couldn't handle it. I didn't know how to handle it. I wasn't having fun. Finally, I got to the point where I'm like, enough's enough. I got to figure this out. And so I just started kind of reading and doing my own research, trying to find books that were, preached more about, positivity and all that stuff to try to bring you out of a rut. And then, one thing leads to another. Next thing you know, I'm journaling every single day. I'm creating awareness with my body and my mind to try to, solve problems before they happen. Continually talking to our mental skills coach to stay sharp. And honestly, it's not even like, I've realized the mental side is, I used to think you would do a couple things and you'd be good, and, you didn't have to do it again. And that's where I've realized that, these tools that I've been implementing into my career, I'm probably going to be doing them for my whole career. I'm going to be, doing more of them. And, I'm anxious to kind of see where this stuff takes me.
And it's not only how, I would argue that it's not only just for your career, but for life in general, these skills help. But I always talk about how the skills you learn in sports mentally, physically, I mean, to a certain extent as well, but mentally for sure, the things you learn about like dealing with failure, confidence, working as a team, all that kind of stuff. It's things that apply to your life in general.
Yeah, man. Like you literally said it. At first I thought they were just more, I thought I was doing them just for the mental side of baseball and pitching. And then I realized how useful these tools were with just dealing with confidence and your wife or your girlfriend, being able to, be on the road. And it's just, I was able to link up with a really good trainer in Tampa, Florida that he's got a really strong mindset and, been learning from him, just things to do and tactics to do. I mean, it's a never ending battle to try to get better.
Mm-hmm. Was there any difference in your focus of the mental side of the game from being a starting to a relief pitcher, or was it all pretty similar?
Yeah, it was definitely different. I didn't really have any mental, skills for the starting side. I really struggled. I really struggled as a starter, I would say, overall. I mean, I had some flashes of just really, really good moments, but I never really had a consistent run, for a year or two seasons like that. Part of it was mechanics, trying to do too much, listening to too many people, getting changed mechanically by coaches and listening to the wrong voices. But, I right now, I mean, I get asked that question a lot. It's just for me as a person, I've always been one that isn't extremely patient. I like to kind of get into the action. I kind of like to, I like to be aggressive. I like to, train, not necessarily in the mental aspect for me is more of a, how can I be as focused and aggressive under control as I can. And being in that bullpen, that high leverage situation, I've kind of found that that's where my body, I like to be in that role. I don't like to, if I went back to a starter right now, yeah, I could 100% do it. Would I want to do it? Probably not. I like the bullpen life.
Yeah. When did you make that switch from starting pitcher to relief pitcher? Was it something that kind of like one day you stopped being a starting pitcher and then went to being a relief pitcher? I know for a lot of baseball players, even starting pitchers, part of some of their rehab is they'll throw bullpen sessions, right? So was that kind of how it came about as well?
So it was my fourth year, 4.5 years into my minor league career. I was in Double-A with Boston, Portland Sea Dogs, Portland, Maine. And, it was kind of the same situation. I didn't really, mechanics were okay. I didn't really have my breaking ball. My changeup was good. My fastball was good. Usually when you have it, you're a starter, you only have two pitches. It's hard to go late into the game. And so one day, I couldn't really make it past the fifth inning. It seemed like for 6-7 game starts in a row. And, the pitching coordinator at the time and the pitching coach, they pulled me aside. Hey, Ty, we want to talk to you. And I had no idea what to expect. I thought maybe I'd be getting sent down. And they're like, hey, we want to put you in the bullpen. And I was just really kind of taken back because my whole life as a kid, when you're a pitcher, when you're a young kid in high school, you don't pitch out of the bullpen. Every kid's a starter. Every kid has the dream of pitching in the major leagues as a starter. Every kid wants to be, Nolan Ryan, Roger Clemens, Justin Verlander. It's just like, that's what a kid's idea of pitching in the major leagues is. It's never, I want to be an eighth inning reliever. You don't even think about that. But I was really open to it. I was kind of cool with it because it was a kind of a fresh start. Mm-hmm. And honestly, my first game, I just told myself that, listen, I have to be. This is a role that uses a little bit more aggression, a little bit more intensity, and I embraced it. And I think my first game and after that, obviously I had a little bit of up and down there at Double-A, Triple-A, my second year as a starter or as a reliever. But it was kind of, I thought my passion at the time, and it's true to this day.
Just goes to show you can't plan for anything in life. You can try to plan out your life, and you have this vision of what your life's going to turn out to be like. But there's so many, pardon the pun, but there's so many curveballs that life throws at you that you just kind of got to roll with the punches, so to say.
Oh, dude, that is an understatement. I mean, people can tell you that when you're young and you're naive and you're getting into pro ball, but I mean, honestly, without the experiences, I mean, there was so many bad times that I couldn't believe, the amount of failure that I was dealing with. And finally, like you said, I just got to the point where it's like, how do I deal with this failure? And I've just been for probably the last 2.5, 3 years has really been, it's really been something that I actually kind of enjoy learning about now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what was it like being traded from Boston to the Angels organization? Because correct me if I'm wrong, but that was probably the first time you've been traded from one team to another. I know you've been bounced around different levels of the minor league, but it's obviously different going from one organization to the other.
Yeah, it was weird. I kind of had an idea that I would be.
Was it just like rumblings around the clubhouse as to why you had that idea, or?
Yeah, you're in AAA or AA, or you're a high prospect at the time if you're a younger guy. Boston at the time, they had a lot of people. They weren't calling me up. They, for whatever reason, they didn't think they could use me at the major league level. And, I was excited. I was excited to get out of there because I wanted a fresh start. I wanted to be in the major leagues. My stats, I had some of the best stats in AAA. In the International League, and I knew I was ready to pitch in the majors. At that time I was just thinking, it's only a matter of time till I get the call up. I never got the call up, and kids, guys in the clubhouse, they start talking. Everyone's joking, you're going to get traded. You start hearing, this guy's going to get traded, and then the trade deadline, and it always comes down to a couple hours, and it was, let's see, I think it was like the 6th inning. We were in Syracuse, and our trainer, I was in the bullpen. He's like, Ty, come here. It was me and lefty, William Jerez, who's a good buddy of mine with the Pirates. They're like, Jerez and Buttrey, come here. And I was like, all right, I'm obviously getting traded, like middle of the game, trade deadline. We go into the office, and I talked to our farm director, Ben Crockett, and, I was kind of shaking because I was like, man, like what name is he about to say on this conference call? Am I going to be going to, am I going to be going to Florida? Am I going to be going to Toronto? Like, am I going to go to California? And at first he said, you've been traded to the Los Angeles, and immediately I thought Dodgers. And then when he said the Angels, I was just, I was so thankful because the Angels were a team growing up that I always really respected, and I looked at their stadium. I always knew it was a beautiful stadium. Being out playing in California and Orange County, right there in Anaheim, it just was a really cool moment. But it was also, I was just confused because for the last 6.5 years, I didn't really know anything else besides Boston and Red Sox, and that's kind of where when you get drafted by a team, you think you're going to pitch with that team, and it didn't happen. And I was on a flight the next day. I was actually on the DL at the time, and I went to Arizona, and I pitched in the AZL, which is their equivalent to the GCL. I threw a week there, got called up to AAA, pitched another week there, and then got called up to the majors and met the team in Arlington at the Rangers Stadium and made my debut that day.
And I got to imagine, how you're talking about Dodgers versus Angels. At least with the Angels, you're not taking any at-bats most of the games, right? Because you're Dodgers, you get batting ninth, and that's got to be I don't know what it's like. I don't know as a pitcher if you've ever had to take at-bats before or what kind of that process is really like.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. So I had an opportunity once when we went to play the Chicago Cubs, and then the other time when we played the Cardinals. Coming in the 8th inning, you potentially are going to hit, or they're going to DH, or they're going to not DH for you. They're going to sub a guy, and Guy's going to pitch hit for you. And so I was on deck both times. I mean, I haven't swung a bat since 5 years. I was a good high school hitter. Obviously I focused on pitching in high school, but to be on deck at Cardinal Stadium and Wrigley, it was just like, what am I doing here? Like, why am I about to go? Why am I up here hitting? And I don't know. Luckily, because I wanted to hit, but Pujols pinch hit for me, and then I think not Otani. I'm not sure who pinched it the other time, but it was cool. Like, I got on deck. The manager actually told me to go up there, and he's like, "You're a lefty," and I said, "Yeah," and he was worried because my pitching hand's exposed more so as a lefty hitter, and I'm a right-handed pitcher.
Right.
So he actually wanted me to go up there and hit righty. Just so he's like, listen, don't swing, don't do anything funny, don't try to be a hero. He goes, just go up there right-handed, don't do anything. And I kind of wanted to, but obviously I had to listen to him, and then I got pinch hit for it. So that was my story for that.
Yeah. Take me a bit back to your MLB debut a couple years ago. How quick of a turnaround was it from being told you were getting called up to like the game actually happening? Because I know you subbed in for an injury.
Yeah. So it was weird. It was basically, I got called up, and I didn't sleep at all the night before. I was on a flight from Salt Lake, Utah to Texas, about 3-hour flight. Being a reliever, you got to be ready at all times. And I went in there. In my first pitch, Delano the Shields was up, and he tried laying down a bunt. I threw a scoreless inning, and I got a hold, and it was a weird moment.
Yeah, really. I mean, no better way to. I actually saw the play a couple days ago. I was looking it up and everything, and early candidate for Gold Glove candidate for the award people to see in the future. But what was it like this off season? Kind of your mentality and sitting back and looking at all the moves the Angels were making, because obviously they have Joe Madden now as their manager, and they signed Anthony Rendon, and they already have Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani. What's kind of like what was your feeling throughout the off season as they were making all these moves? How excited were you getting?
I was getting really excited. It's something that I've worked on so much in my baseball career is just trying to control what I can control. That's allowed me to kind of focus in on what I need to do and not necessarily focus on all the noise going outside of baseball. That's something I'm working towards right now, and I'm trying to get as good as I can, be as great as I can at that. Obviously, when you sign guys like Rendon and you have like Trout and Upton and Pujols and Ohtani, our lineup's stacked, and so you're you have to pay attention to that because those guys are superstars. It was awesome because every single time we would get a guy, guys would feel more confident. It's pretty fun going in there, pitching with a lead. And our starting rotation, we got really, really good starters. These guys are, they're workhorses. They're competitive. I love coming in after every single one of them. I haven't got to, obviously, with Andres and, Tehran and Bundy are new additions to our starting rotation. But those guys before the virus popped up, those guys were dealing in camp. And it was we were starting to really, really look good. On paper and off paper, our bullpen was coming around. We have a stud bullpen, guys come in throwing hard, guys support each other. That's kind of how that culture and Joe Madden trying to bring everyone together. He's really good at, from only being a year of service time really that I got. I can just tell, he's dead serious about winning, and he expects winning. He expects guys to be confident. He expects you to come in situations and excel and give them everything you got, and that's something I kind of pride myself in trying to do.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned the season's kind of a bit up in the air right now with the whole virus thing going on. What are some things you've been doing with your time off to either stay in shape physically or mentally?
Yeah, so I was actually on a pretty good routine with everything. I was dialed in terms of my journaling, in terms of I listen to an audiobook on the way back from the field every single day. I listen to, some stuff on the way to the field, and it's kind of just routine that gets me locked in. I come home, I take all my supplements that are, obviously approved, NSF certified. I'm just trying to get myself as dialed into a consistent routine as possible, because the season, there's going to be a lot of inconsistencies. There's going to be long road trips, bad sleep, fights, maybe, in terms of, dealing with off the field issues or friendships and family or, drama, always, just normal stuff that comes up in a human being's life that you got to deal with. And so that's something I've been trying to work on, is just really focus on a consistent routine. And I've realized I work better when I have a routine. And so I was really trying to wrap my head around that. So obviously when the virus popped up, I try to stay as consistent as I can and challenge myself during this time. So when the season does come up, I'm trying not to skip a beat.
Right. And I think it's really important. I like how you mentioned it, how you're kind of looking ahead to the future of things that may pop up. Because I think there's a bit of a tendency, not only with athletes, but I think just in life in general, that you only really work on something once it's gone broken. Something like the mental game, for example. One thing I see a lot of with some of the younger athletes I speak with or consult with is, they don't really see the value in, working on confidence, working on, how to lose, because they haven't had to experience those things yet. Like they're on a stacked high school team where they never lose, so they don't see the point in learning how to lose.
Right.
When you get to the college or minors or majors, whatever professional level they get to, then they start to realize, if I only had worked on those things earlier on, maybe I could handle it better now. So that's just another point I wanted to drive home for maybe some of the younger athletes listening out there, is to not wait until things go bad to start working on them. Take that proactive approach and work on things when you have the time to.
Yeah, you have to be proactive. If you want to, something for me, speaking for myself, just trying to succeed and be the best I can at the major league level. You have to be proactive. I thought something that, I've realized is at every single level, you have to work harder. Like I thought it was going to be easier. I thought that, you get to the MLB, you're kind of solidified in your routine. It just kind of happens naturally. You just kind of go about, do your thing. It's all going to be fine. And what I've realized, it's like every single year, I want to do better and better. So in order to become, the best pitcher I can be, I have to work harder every single year, train harder, be more diligent with my routine, my focus, my journaling, meditation, all those aspects, all those things to try to be the best pitcher I can be. And there's definitely no off days if you want it.
Yeah. I mean, like how you said, how every year you kind of have to adjust. There'll be no better example than this year when the season starts. Because I saw a report the other day where I think some of the players in the union, the Players Association, I guess, they said like they'll be willing to do like a specific number of double headers a week. I think it was two double headers a week to be able to fit in as many games as you can. And I mean, already things will be kind of thrown off a bit routine wise, but to throw in double headers there, it's like you said, I think the mental, as much as athletes can work on their mental game and working on, shifts in routine and confidence and dealing with a whole bunch of changes, it can only do, positive things for them when these unexpected changes happen throughout the season.
Yeah, those double headers. I mean, I don't think anyone's excited to play a double header, but when it's the only way and when it's what you have to do in order to get your salary and get your service time, I mean, fans want to see us play. They want to see a championship. They want to see a World Series champion this year. And I know MLB and the Players Union are doing everything they can to come up with negotiations so that we can achieve that. It's obviously it's tough to do. You got so many aspects. I mean, guys, at this point, I don't even know where we stand, if the virus is going to get worse, or obviously we hope it gets better, but. I mean, at this point, I think we're looking to start in June, potentially July, but I mean, that's all up in the air, I guess.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Even up here in Canada, like a lot of like my employment and my other friends' employments and stuff, they've basically shut things down for 3 or 4 months. They're not even like attempting to get started up before July. So I think we're all looking at that June, July timeline, which is unfortunate, of course, but I mean, we're all in this together, right? So we're all trying to fight it.
Yeah, absolutely. We have to be.
Yeah. Anyways, Ty, let's wrap this up, man. I appreciate you taking some time. I hope trip goes well to visit your family and everything. And I hope everyone, of course, stays safe during this this weird time we're all in.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And stay safe and stay positive during this time. And I appreciate talking to you.